A week ago, he got transmigrated into that body. With the memories of the body, he understood what kind of world it was. Here the monster was rampant and roamed freely while human beings can only survive in tall cities. To fight the monster, human evolved and made contract with spirit pets, thereby creating a new profession, tamer. As the name implies, a tamer can tame strong spirit pets and control them to fight ferocious monsters that roam in the wild. Not only can they protect human cities, but they can also explore other places beyond it. In this world, the biggest dream of youth is to become a strong tamer. Federation's youngsters get a random egg when they turn 18. With the monster egg, they can make a contract with their first spiritual pet. However, all of that had nothing to do with him because when he transversed into this body, the monster egg had already hatched. And his spiritual pet was a weak, ugly, and tiny zombie that could not even walk properly or jump. Although zombie pets had high defense, their attack is non-existent. Most importantly, zombie pets cannot evolve, so it was destined to be a trash tamer. Then he guesses that the owner of the body died in depression. The story starts in the classroom. The teacher is reminding his students that there is less than a week before the admissions for the Pet Tamer Guardian Academies. They should use these few days to prepare themselves well and strive to get a good grade on the test in a week's time and to get into their college. Then he dismisses the class. The children are talking about how time flies as their 3 years in school has passed so fast. One of them is worried that with their current power level, they could not even think about the top 4 Pet Tamer Academy. Not just them, they should think about how to get into any of the Pet Tamer Academy. Some were worried as if they could not get into any Tamer Academy, then they would just be normal people for the rest of their life. Our protagonist Ye Ling is thinking that there is still a week left for the Guardian Spirit Academy's test, but what did it have to do with being a traverser? He remembers that just a week ago he had traversed into the body he was now in. Holy shit! The rustling sound of the hatched monster was so beautiful. His sheet had finally arrived. The guardian spirit of him had been harvested. Now that he had a system, although he didn't know what its purpose was yet, just a low-level guardian spirit could not meet his needs. His goal was not the low-level Guardian Spirit Academy. His friends hear him say that and make fun of him. His friends make fun of him, saying that the monster John B of his was dressed and he couldn't even afford to enter the Guardian Spirit Academy. Ye Ling goes to his friend Lu Wu and tells him not to use the power of his family to bully others. When Li Wu comes to fight Ye Ling stops him and says him not to be impulsive, as a gentleman's revenge is not too late even for 10 years, and now was not the time to fight. It was time to see who gets into the top Guardian Spirit Academy. This startles Wu. Wu is then teased by his friends. He shows him the finger. After the school was over, Wu comes over to Ye Ling and tells him that he is going to the training hall and if he needs something he could find Wu there. Ye Ling tells that he is going home first. Ye Ling was waiting to go home and see what his guardian spirit could do. He looks at the specs of the Guardian and his specs. The Guardian was level 1 and it consumed 100 spiritual energies. He sees that then stats also had an evolutionary direction. Did it mean that the zombie could also evolve? Although the highest level of the growth power was the myth level, there is no spiritual pet that reaches the myth level in the entire Federation. A trash spiritual guardian could only level up to rank 4 level 1, while a mediocre could go up to rank 5 level 10 and so on. Only upper-level spiritual pet had the opportunity to upgrade to rank 9 and 10, let alone the higher spiritual pets. He lies down and thinks that he needs to get materials for evolutions. He had to see what materials were needed to evolve his zombie first. As expected, there were benefits for novice. All those manhwas and novels he read in his past life had not deceived him. The evolution was free. He questions what the free evolution was going to do. But since they have signed the contract, they needed to get stronger together. So, then he clicks on the Evolve tab. The zombie then starts to transfer. Holy ship, was not the evolution causing big changes? Was it a mistake? The zombie doll then transformed into a beautiful girl zombie. Ye Ling was shocked to see all that. The zombie has completed its evolution. Ye Ling thinks that the zombie was a bit too pretty and guesses how strong she was exactly. He then opens up the stats to look at her attributes, as she would be hunting monsters after all. He looks at her stats. Her name was White Eye Zombie, class Undead, rank 1 level 2, growth power common and growth rate 0%. She had talent in physical damage reduction with other extra talents. Her skill was Bloodlust, and evolutionary path was firstly, Gray-Eyed Zombie, Yellow-Eyed Zombie, Blue-Eyed Zombie, Green-Eyed Zombie, and finally the myth, the Red-Eyed Zombie. Her growth power had evolved from Trash to Command, and she even had a skill now. Skill Bloodlust. When the owner fights against an enemy and causes damage to the opponent, she could recover from her own injuries while significantly increasing her attack power. Its duration was 3 minutes and it cooled down after 15 minutes. Ye Ling thinks that although it had a cooldown, this skill could heal injuries and provide more long-lasting combat power. Bloodlust ability combined with the damage reduction could cause considerable damage. It was a good meat shield indeed. He then asks the system what would it take to obtain skill and talent points. The system answers that he could add points to the skills and power by using his free points. Free points could not only be used to add points to pets' talents and skills, but also to upgrade the skills mastered by the host using the available free points. Ye Ling was amazed and happy reading this. The spiritual skills, which require learning to master them. In the current schools, only 3 spiritual skills were taught, namely Spiritual Chain, Spiritual Shield, and Spiritual Vision. The spiritual skills the Imperial Spiritual Envoy had were not easy to upgrade and required a lot of time to cultivate. However, Ye Ling's spiritual power was too low and upgrading his spiritual skills consumed too much, so it was not worth it. He then plans to add some to the White-Eyed Zombie first. Ye Ling then gets a choice to add new skill to the zombie. The skills were Magic Damage Reduction, Low Level that slightly reduced magic damage, High Speed Regeneration, as long as it is not instantly eliminated, Rapid Recovery no matter how serious the injury but requires physical energy consumption. Finally, Berserker, gradually consumes her health to greatly increase her own strength and speed, and then, after the health drops to a certain level, this skill will automatically turn off. All of the 3 skills were strong. Ye Ling thinks that zombies should behave like zombies, and he adds the speed regeneration skill to the zombie. He thinks that as long as the spiritual pet does not die, it will continue to regenerate, which was simply ridiculous. A spiritual pet was also the one that can be fatally injured. It would be very troublesome if she suffers from a fatal injury while in battle, so she needed to have a high-speed regenerative ability. He then uses another point to get the Berserker ability, as with the regeneration and Bloodlust ability it would be unstoppable. If this cycle went on, his female zombie would be unstoppable. He then adds the Berserker skill. He then thinks that she should not be called a black-eyed zombie and squeezes her cheek. He feels that his skin had also become soft and seemed no different from the normal skin. The zombie girl blushes and asks him what he was doing. He was surprised to hear that she could speak too. He then asks if calling her a zombie was unpleasant to her. And he gives her a name, Shuwayo. He then asks her how it sounds. She then nods her head, maybe thinking it was wonderful. He then tells her that she would be called Shuwayo from then on. She had a total of 4 talents and skills combined. He thinks that his spiritual pet is much more powerful than other spiritual pets and monsters with the same growth power. However, in order to continue evolution, they need to hunt more monsters. It was time to go monster hunting. The Federation he was in was not technologically weak, but it was slightly different from previous generations of technology. Although there were vehicles such as cars and airplanes, they were not powered by gasoline or electricity but by spiritual energy. Spiritual powers could be said to be the driving force of all the devices. But both cars and airships were limited to driving within the cities. Outside the city there were areas where monsters ran rampant. Daring to drive out was suicidal. The nearest means of transportation was still cars, and if it was to travel between cities, the airships were the safest bet. Because the Federation had arranged for a powerful Imperial Spirit envoy to accompany airships. As long as it does not encounter a large number of flying monsters, the safety of the vehicle was guaranteed. In the Alliance, the only currency is the credit point, just like money in the Earth. He goes in a vehicle and asks to take him to the southern gate. The driver asks Ye Ling if he is a student at Tianhui School, and then says that going to the south gate alone was very dangerous for a student. He said he is going there, and he was going there to hunt monsters. The fact about it being a dangerous place was correct and really out there. The entire Tianhui city had 4 gates: east, west, north and south. Each gate is guarded by heavily armed soldiers to prevent the invasion of monsters. But now he was no longer a useless person. He reaches the gate. There a person asked Ye Ling to show his ID card. He then takes it out and shows it to the guard. He was then allowed to cross the gate. Around the city there were some relatively low-level monsters. High-level monsters were usually located far from the city. But in the wilderness, it was better to be cautious and be safe than sorry. So, he calls out for his familiar Shueyo. He was already prepared to take a look at the distribution monsters near the south gate. He chooses Burial Mound. The level of undead skeleton monsters there were not high, and they could also collect evolution materials from the blood. So, they fix on that place and plan to head there. The first evolution is given by the system for free, and the subsequent evolution materials need to be collected by himself. White-eyed zombie, common, had been achieved. The next evolution of the blood ghost requires for materials: flawless bone, heart of the darkness, 10 second-grade darkness crystals and 10 dark blood essence. And in this burial mound there was the chance of obtaining those 2 materials. One is the flawless bone and the other is the second-grade darkness crystal. He looks at his familiar's stats and thinks for a while. Shueyo then speaks. Ye Ling then looks at her and asks her what was wrong with her. He asked if they had reached their destination. She then tells him that the undead were everywhere. But Ye Ling mentions that he could not see any one of them. He had checked the map and found that there should be skeleton soldiers with the strength level of rank 1 and level 3. Suddenly a skeleton hand grabs his foot. The system then alerts him that he has got a new mission. It was to battle and kill 20 skeletons and complete the mission to 50% of the current Spirit Pet Experience Points, EXP, progress. He thinks that the reward was overrated and it was directly at 50% of EXP. Ye Ling then orders Shueyo to kill all of the skeletons. She then quickly gets to work. She then starts killing the skeletons one after another, and the system was also registering it simultaneously. Ye Ling was amazed to see that Shueyo had killed 4 skeletons in just one move. He thinks she was very strong and that he should not hesitate. More skeletons start coming. Ye Ling orders her to kill all of them and not leave a single one. Shueyo then starts attacking all the zombies. There is a corpse poison on Shueyo's nails. As long as she scratches the opponent's skill, the corpse will invade the enemy's body. However, for monsters like skeletons, which are immune to mist negative effects, it does not have much effect. Although the group they were fighting barely reached rank 1 level 2 or level 3, they were still far behind Shueyo. Killing 6 skeletons in minutes, the mission was completed quickly. Some more skeletons see them, and then start coming their way. Seeing this, Ye Ling orders Shueyo to go and kill all of them as they were about to level up. Shueyo then leveled up by 1, it was a surprise even for Ye Ling. She was now a rank 1 level 3 pet. They had also gotten a free point. Ye Ling thinks that it was more important to level up Shueyo faster, so he plans to use the one free point on Shueyo. She got magic damage reduction. Now that the attack power was sufficient, he then focuses on increasing the magic resistance so that Shueyo can withstand it when magic enemies' magic attacks. Ye Ling tells Shueyo that there are elite skeletons nearby, so they head out to find them. From afar, Ye Ling sees a girl. He then looks in front of her. There were skeleton soldiers. The skeleton soldiers were running towards the girl. Ye Ling hides behind the trees and sees what happens. Ye Ling recognized the girl. It was Huasiener. She had actually gotten there ahead of him. Ye Ling then sees that her spirit pet was not with her. Was she planning to take on the skeleton soldier by herself? This is... The girl then speaks Earth Dragon. What do you think will happen next? Comment down below.
Thank you for joining us in this recap journey. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button. Comment if you have suggestions, want more of the series. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Do subscribe if you want more similar content. This is Universe Nexus, your passport to the immersive realms of anime and manga.